On today's episode of Time About the Movies, Thor has returned in the sequel to his first movie back in 2011 and the first Thor movie to follow after the Avengers. And let's just say that you thought Iron Man 3 was an underachiever. Wait until you see Thor the Dark World. We'll touch on that one. We'll also take a look at the other big new release of the weekend, The Book Thief. November 8th, 2013. This is Time About the Movies.
Find a way to save us all.
All yours.
Anyone else?
And welcome to Time About the Movies. We've got only two movies to look at today for November 8th, 2013. But one of them is a big movie, and that is Thor the Dark World, which is, of course, the sequel to Thor and the second of the films that came after the events of the Avengers. So in this movie, thousands of years ago, a race of beings known as Dark Elves tried to send the universe into darkness by using a weapon known as the Ether. But warriors from Asgard stopped them, but their leader, Malekith, played by Christopher Eccleston, escapes to wait for another opportunity. The warriors find the Ether, and since it can't be destroyed, they try to hide it. In the present day, Jane Foster, once again played by Natalie Portman, awaits the return of Thor, once again played by Chris Hemsworth, but it's been 2 years. He's trying to bring peace to the Nine Realms. Jane discovers an anomaly similar to the one that brought Thor to Earth. She goes to investigate and finds a wormhole and is sucked into it. Thor wishes to return to Earth, but his father Odin, played by Anthony Hopkins, once again refuses to let him. Thor learns from Heimdall, Idris Elba, that the one who can see into all the realms that Jane disappeared. Thor then returns to Earth just as Jane returns, but when some policemen try to arrest her, some kind of energy repulses them. Thor then brings her to Asgard to find out what happened to Earth. When it happens again, they discover that while Jane disappeared, she crossed paths with the Ether and it has entered her. Malekith, upon sensing that the time is to strike, now seeks out the Ether, so he attacks Asgard and Thor's mother is killed, protecting Jane. Odin wants to keep Jane on Asgard so Malekith will come, but Thor disagrees with his plans, so with his cohorts he decides to take Jane away, and he enlists the aid of his brother Loki, once again played by Tom Hiddleston. Problem is, can Thor trust Loki? I think we all know the answer to that one, but I'll say this one. I think Thor was the worst MCU movie up until we got to, I still think the original Thor is probably the worst of the MCU movies in general. I thought Eternals was probably there, but it's down there at the bottom of the barrel. I really didn't like that one. You know, much of the problem with the first film was that the Dutch angle shots, the douchebaggery from Thor in the first half, the visuals that were really lazy, that lazy ending, they get all fixed up here big time in this movie. The Dutch angle shots are gone. Thor is much more reasonable, while tough throughout the entire film. He has a fun personality to him. The visual effects definitely look a lot better, and the ending is perfectly handled, with the exception of two things, but I'll save that for the end. I'll talk about the positives. The performances, I think, are very good here. Chris Hemsworth and Tom Hiddleston, once again, are great as Thor and Loki. Natalie Portman has a more prominent role here that works as well as it did in the first film. I didn't think Kat Dennings was as annoying as everybody else made her out to be, especially when you looked at Stellan Skarsgård and how they just embarrassed him in this movie. I mean, they made him a joke in this film for no reason whatsoever. There's no reason he should be acting the way he does in this movie. The last time we saw him in The Avengers, he was perfectly fine, and then in this movie, he literally begins the movie by walking out naked is for no particular reason. It's just kind of like I just don't get it, man. Like, at least in Cinderella, when they gave him an over-the-top performance, it made sense. But either way, you look at this, and you gotta look at Disney and go, like, you do realize that this guy can act without acting like a fool, right? But, you know, the action in this is really good. There are some really good scenes. There's one scene where Thor and Loki takes the ships to use it by the bad guys to put Jane Foster in this place I'm gonna butcher this name here. Svartalheim? Let's go with that. And it's very reminiscent of Star Wars. And, you know, this is still a couple years away before Disney does Star Wars The Force Awakens. So it kind of gives you a little bit of a sneak preview of what they would do with that. And, there was a little bit of that when we got to Star Wars The Force Awakens. I thought that was pretty cool. And the final battle actually worked pretty well, too. The story does work well enough. It is a decently paced film. There are a lot of flaws with the movie, and I will say that there's spoilers, but, at this point, if you haven't seen it by now, I don't know what else to tell you, but I have 4 major problems with the movie. One, as much as I like Christopher Eccleston as a villain, his motivations are not that great. They're not really that spelled out, and there was a point towards the film where I couldn't figure out who the bad guy was. Was it him? Was it, Alvin Cruz, played by Adewale Akinunu-Agbaji from Suicide Squad? In fact, the more I think about it, most of Marvel's villains really are not that strong up to this point. I mean, this was before we got to Thanos and before we got to some of the much better villains in here. But, other than people like Obadiah Stane and Iron Man, Abomination and Incredible Hulk, Red Skull and Captain America, most of the villains are pretty lackluster at this point. 2, Renee Russo is wasted in this movie as Odin's wife. Like, she's literally there to get killed halfway out of the movie. It's just like, Renee Russo deserves much better than this, man. I was thinking that this was going to give her a comeback, but sadly that never came to be. She appeared in another Avengers movie later on, but, they really didn't do much with her overall. She was just only there to get killed off. Like, I thought they were going to expand her role in this. They said they were going to, but they didn't really do much with her whatsoever. Like, the last 2 problems I have are with the ending. Like, they're not as bad as the endings of Iron Man 3 and Man of Steel. Like, there's a point where Loki dies trying to save Thor and Jane at the end, and we know it's not like that. We know that Loki is going to come back, and that's going to be one of the fun jokes about Thor Ragnarok, and even the beginning of Avengers Endgame is Thanos kills him, and it's just like, nope, fooled you, because he's in the Disney Plus show. It's a continuing gag. I've never read the comics, so I don't know if that's the whole thing with him, but after the second or third time, it did kind of start to get annoying when they did that. Like when that happened again, I really had to tell myself, this is a running gag, isn't it? And then lastly, we get the scene of Benicio del Toro as the Collector, who is the guy in the Guardians of the Galaxy, which I thought he was going to be the villain when that came out, and I'll say this, I didn't like the way he looked in this movie. He looked kind of like a bad Asian stereotype, and you could tell it looked like that when you watched the movie. But luckily in the Guardians of the Galaxy movie, it was a much better makeup job overall, and it didn't look as bad as it did here. Like, again, I haven't read the comics in this, so I didn't really know if that exactly what was going for that. But this is a good film. It's a better movie than Thor is. It's not a great movie overall, but it is the best comic book movie of the year, which really isn't saying a whole lot, especially when you consider this was such a disappointing year for comic book movies. Iron Man 3 was okay, but nothing spectacular. Man of Steel was good. Kick-Ass 2 was a bust. This movie is probably the best of that year in particular, but other than that, it's not really that great overall, but there is stuff I liked about it. The cast is good, the action is good, the story works, the pacing is good. The flaws of the first film are fixed. It's not a bad movie, it's not a great movie either. It's really run-of-the-mill here. I thought this was maybe one of the worst in the series, but I don't know, maybe I liked it a little bit more than I've initially made it out to believe. I still think Thor 1 is still the worst of the films in general. This would probably be my third favorite of the series, like right below Thor Ragnarok and Thor Love and Thunder. Yes, I like Thor Love and Thunder. Screw you. I'm just telling you what I feel. So, yeah, anyway, that's my thoughts on Thor the Dark World. So let's go ahead and move on to the other new release this weekend, and that is The Book Thief. So yeah, this is a confusing-ass movie, man, because it's a movie where you look at it at first and you think, is this trying to be one of those new Hunger Games Twilight-style series where it's supposed to lead into a new series of films in general, or is this a Oscar bait movie? And I feel like it's trying to do both, and kind of failing at both at the same time. So this is based off of a novel of the same name. It's about a young girl played by Sophia Nilisi, who's living with her adopted German family during the Nazi era. Taught to read by her kind-hearted foster father, played by Jeffrey Rush, the girl begins borrowing books and sharing them with the Jewish refugees by sheltering her foster parents in their home. And yeah, this is a movie where I still have no idea what the hell they were doing in this. Like, this is a confusing-ass movie, man. This is a film where you can't really... you know what it reminds me of? It reminds me of that movie, The Goldfinch, a movie where that was clearly going for an Oscar, and you just couldn't tell what the direction was they were supposed to go with it. It just felt like a film where it got lost in the shuffle of what they were trying to accomplish, and by the end of it, you're just kind of like, what the hell did I just watch, man? Like, that's this movie in general. It's a confusing ass movie. It's all over the place. It makes no sense of what it's trying to do or what the motivation is. It's just a real sloppy film on both levels, and I'll give it credit. The acting is good in here. They're trying their best. The visual look of the film is impressive, but and the score by John Williams. I mean, it's a score by John Williams. Of course, it's going to be good. But on top of all that, the film just really didn't feel like there was. It felt like it was going on for an eternity. I mean, it's an over 2-hour movie, and it felt like it felt like I was watching Avatar: Fire and Ash again. I just did my review for that, and that's is at least that, but at least unlike Avatar: Fire and Ash, this one is at least tolerable and isn't doing the same goddamn thing the previous movies did. But that's for tomorrow, so check that out then. But as far as this film goes, I really don't know how to feel about it. I can't say it's a good movie, but I can't really say it's a terrible movie. It just is so confused on what it was trying to accomplish. What was the end goal for this film? We'll probably never know because nobody's really talked about this movie since then. And it's really hard not to see why because so much is going on in this. It's so confusing on what they're trying to accomplish here, and it just didn't work for me. It just didn't feel like it was working. The acting is good. The music by John Williams is good. The visual look is pretty impressive. But other than that, though, yeah, this is pretty much a dud of a film, too. So, not much more to say about that one. That is The Book Thief. And that's it. And that's going to wrap up this episode of Time About the Movies. Next time we meet, 2 more movies to look at here. Not a whole lot of films coming out between the 1st and the 22nd, which I know is going to be a packed weekend for Thanksgiving weekend. But we do have one of the best recent Christmas movies, and it's a sequel that nobody was really expecting to be all that good, myself included, The Best Man Holiday. Not only did I think it was really good, I actually thought it's a lot better than the first Best Man movie, and I love the first Best Man movie, but we'll touch on that, and we'll also take a look at Alexander Payne's Nebraska, featuring Will Forte, Bruce Dern, and June Squibb among his cast. We'll take a look at both of these movies coming up tomorrow afternoon, so stay tuned for that. But with all that said, thank you so much for watching this. I hope you enjoyed it. If you did, please go ahead and do me the honors of hitting that like button, that subscribe button, and that notification button. Also, don't forget to check out our playlist, and don't forget to check out the previous episode we did. With all that said, whether it's in the past, the present, or the future, I will see you at the movies. Take care.